you, everybody, for coming to the College Football Betting with Aaron Torres YouTube channel. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of the screen. Go ahead, click that subscribe button. It helps our channel grow. It helps our audience grow. I appreciate it more than you know, as we're talking college football on this channel year-round. Appreciate your support. Click that subscribe button. Saturday night, College Station, Texas. College game day is there, as the Notre Dame Fighting Irish travel to Texas to take on the Texas A&M Aggies. Texas A&M actually a 2.5-point favorite in this one. The over-under set at 46.5. In terms of Texas A&M, listen, you don't need me to tell you what the big story is coming into this one. It is the dawn of the Mike Elko era in College Station. Listen, we've done our Jimbo Fisher rants and raves and takes and this and that. I saw he's starting the media tour, saw him on Monday on Sirius XM talking about how he's ready for another opportunity. So we may be discussing Jimbo Fisher in the future, but he, of course, was fired late last season. There was that half a moment where you thought Mark Stoops was going to get the job, but Mike Elko gets it. And I'm so excited about this because not only was he really good at Duke without a lot of resources, ironically, his starting quarterback, Riley Leonard, who's going to be on the other sideline in this game, gets hurt last year. But I think more importantly, just a lot of the stuff that was lacking under Jimbo Fisher, don't think it's going to be an issue with this program. Accountability, there was off the field stuff, obviously, with that 2022 recruiting class. All the stuff that I think was an issue there, it's not going to be an issue here. I think Elko runs a tighter ship. I think Tommy Moffitt, the strength and conditioning coach, brings a lot of accountability and toughness to this team. I'm curious to see what this offense looks like with new offensive coordinator Colin Klein. But what's also interesting, and this is the important part, it's not as though this program is going to be lacking for talent in the Mike Elko era, because you could criticize Jimbo Fisher for a lot, but he left the cupboard full. And even after a graduating class, even after a couple players entered the transfer portal, a lot of players, Walter Nolan to Ole Miss, Fadil Diggs to Syracuse, Evan Stewart, on and on, there is still so much talent on this team. Clearly, it all starts with Connor Wigman. Listen, Connor, I'm so curious to see this kid. We mentioned Cade Klubnik earlier in the show, earlier in this preview show. Cade Klubnik was really highly rated coming out of high school, but so too was Connor Wigman. As a true freshman 2 years ago, comes on late and is awesome. 8 touchdowns, no interceptions. As a true freshman, leads A&M to a season-ending win over LSU. Then last year starts off really well, almost 1,000 yards passing, 8 touchdowns, 2 interceptions in the first 4 games, but unfortunately does get hurt in that Auburn game, does not come back. And then we go to the Max Johnsons of the world. We go to the 3rd, 4th string quarterbacks. And really the season was completely off the rails the second that Connor Wigman was out. Good news is he's back. He's healthy. And again, plenty of talent around him. Le'Veon Moss at running back. Obviously, a little bit of disappointing news. Reuben Owens is hurt and out for the foreseeable future in that running back room. But the wide receiver room is good. The tight end room brings back Donovan Green. And we'll see about the offensive line, because there is certainly returning talent, but it hasn't necessarily been the best talent in all of college football. And as a matter of fact, I think if you want to argue that there is a weakness on this Texas A&M team, it is probably that offensive line. According to PFF, last year they ranked 94th in pass blocking, 91st in run blocking. Those are things that have to improve. Those are things that, frankly, are probably part of the reason that Jimbo Fisher is not here, and part of the reason why A&M quarterbacks have not been able to stay healthy. Defensively, by the way, A&M is stacked, right? A lot of returning talent. Shamar Turner, Shamar Stewart along that defensive line. Nick Scourton, probably a name that everybody in college football needs to know. Originally from College Station, went to Purdue, transferred back. You know, this guy led the Big Ten in sacks last year, 10 sacks, 15 TFLs, and he is just a guy. You talk to anybody around A&M, they have raved about this guy in the spring, in fall camp, and that defense is going to be led by this kid, but there is talent, again, at all 3 levels. Criticize Jimbo Fisher for what you want. Talent was not an issue. As far as Notre Dame's concerned, really kind of an interesting team, right? I think just about everybody has them in the playoff picture. And as time goes on, that schedule looks easier and easier. I mean, I think if they can get out of this game, I don't think 12-0 is out of the realm of possibility. Even if they lose this one, toughest games left on the schedule would be Florida State at home later in the year, would be USC on the road. So this is a big one for Notre Dame. You get this win, it's hard to find the losses on the schedule. But also, it's just interesting to think about this Marcus Freeman program going into year 3. 2 really solid seasons, but I don't know that they've had like that statement moment that we're all looking for. They've had ups, they've had downs, they've had ebbs, they've had flows, they've had peaks, they've had valleys. Last year, you almost beat Ohio State, but can't quite get over the hump. You smoked USC, and then all of a sudden you realize that maybe USC isn't as good as we thought. You lose a couple games that you don't expect to at Clemson when Clemson was struggling. So we're looking for that signature moment, that signature season from Marcus Freeman. And it starts with a name that I just mentioned a minute ago, Riley Leonard, the transfer from Duke, where, of course, he played for Mike Elko. We'll be curious to see Riley Leonard. Unfortunately, of course, last season ended with an injury in late October. Well, he's back. He's healthy. And I'm curious to see if we get the 2022 version of Riley Leonard, the guy that many thought was projecting to be a first-round pick last year had he stayed healthy. 64% completion percentage, 20 passing touchdowns, 13 rushing touchdowns. Notre Dame's wide receiver room is improved via the transfer portal. And that defense, man, was filthy a year ago. Top 10 in total offense, top 10 in total defense. Great play along the defensive line. But the secondary was really kind of where things got very intriguing. Xavier Watts, 7 interceptions, tied for the most in college football. Benjamin Morrison, 3 interceptions. So that secondary is deep. That secondary is talented. And I am so fired up to see this team. Now, in terms of when these two teams step on the field, listen, I think it's going to be really interesting because I think you have 2 very good defenses going up against, in my opinion, offenses with question marks, right? For Texas A&M, the big question, Connor Wigman, he is coming off of injury, and that offensive line has not been good. I gave you the stats. PFF said they were basically in the bottom third of college football in both pass blocking and run blocking a season ago. So when I look at A&M, even in the big picture of this season, how much improved is that O-line? How improved is Connor Wigman? Can he stay healthy? Those are things that we have to answer, and we will get answered. And then from Notre Dame's perspective, this is where it gets interesting to me. Everybody likes the Riley Leonard addition, but the big question is how much rust is there? Because the thing about Riley Leonard, I was, obviously doing my homework over the course of the last few weeks, and you start to remember it's not just that he got hurt late in the season for Duke and he missed the last month and a half of the season. It's that he also wasn't cleared for spring ball. So we're talking about a guy that really didn't get cleared until the middle to the end of the summer. Really hasn't gone live in almost a year. And so when I look at this game, I'll be blunt. My initial thought was that I was going to take Texas A&M minus 2.5. But I'll be honest, I actually think the smarter play is probably to take the under here. Now, the under, the point total is low, 46.5. But again, I go back to a few things with both these teams. From the Notre Dame perspective, Riley Leonard, as I just said, coming off of major lower body surgery and did not only play late in the year, but did not play in the spring. But here's the other part. Notre Dame, I think we just assume always going to be great along the offensive line, and they may be. But at the same time, Notre Dame has lost 4 of its 5 starters from a year ago along that O-line. And then their starting left tackle, who was a replacement to begin with, went out for the season with an injury. So you have a new quarterback behind a new O-line. It's worth noting, we talked about the helmet communication stuff with Cam Ward on the road, first game. How do they adjust that whole situation? I can't bet Notre Dame. But at the same time, I worry just enough about that Texas A&M O-line against the Notre Dame D-line that I'm going to stay away. By the way, if you listen to this show, there's been plenty of times where I've backed Texas A&M, know that I shouldn't. I end up regretting it. So to me, the smart play here, I think it's just a stay away from the point total perspective. If you're making me pick, I do like Texas A&M to win this game. But to me, I think the smarter play, just go under. I think both teams are going to struggle to score. I don't think either team is going to play at a crazy tempo. I don't even know what tempo looks like, by the way, in this helmet comms era. Felt like Florida State and Georgia Tech were both playing a little slower than I remember other teams in the past. But I just bring it up because if you're making me pick, I'll take Texas A&M. But my official best bet is the under of 46.5 in this game.